Well, the general, Pakistan's former President Pervez Musharraf's homecoming. The former dictator who's been accused of treason. But ahead of general elections in May, Pervez Musharraf is back. And the former dictator didn't waste any time before setting his poll pitch either. He said he wasn't afraid of death and that he had returned to rescue, to save Pakistan. Now, Musharraf's return marks the end of his 4-year-long exile as well.
Yes. Continue. General Pervez Musharraf. इंशाल्लाह ताला हमें कामयाबी मिलेगी। यार क्या बात है भाई, कोई सवाल नहीं होगा।
Yes. All Pakistan Muslim League, the party that he had floated in exile 3 years ago. He claims that he will contest the general elections scheduled for the 11th of May. Now, Musharraf's return hasn't been devoid of its share of hiccups either. Now, precluded by death threats from the Taliban and imminent arrest threats from the PPP government as well. Now, Musharraf claims that he has ended his exile to lead his party. But there seems to be more in his return than meets the eye. Now, the political corridors are rife with various reasons that might have prompted and facilitated his return. Many analysts and insiders claim that Musharraf's return is part of a deal orchestrated by Saudi Arabia. But what kind of an impact is Pervez Musharraf's return to Pakistan likely to have on the politics of the country? Remember, general elections are scheduled for the 11th of May, but many believe that it won't have an impact of any consequence. Siddiqui joins us to give us more details.
Well, Musharraf is back in Pakistan after 4 long years. But what does his return really mean for the various stakeholders in Pakistan? Let's begin with Asif Ali Zardari. Well, Musharraf can definitely split the votes for Imran, Nawaz and divide the support for Tahir-ul Qadri as well, which could mean something positive for Asif Ali Zardari. Musharraf's war with the judiciary could also overshadow everything else, especially the corruption scandals that we've seen erupting in Pakistan. But there are various cons to this as well for Asif Ali Zardari. The failure to act on Musharraf could actually start rumors of a conspiracy in the return of Pervez Musharraf. Action against Musharraf, in fact, on the other hand, could mean there could be doubts on the reconciliation ordinance legality. On the other hand, let's take a look at how and what it could mean for the army. Now, could this emerge as, could Musharraf in fact emerge as a civilian face for the Pakistani army agenda? And the next, what it could go against the army? Could it seek to reimpose the authority over Pakistan army? Let's take a look at what it could mean for Imran Khan, a very, very important person in these elections this time around. Opportunity to present Musharraf as the past and project Imran Khan himself as the future of Pakistan could be something that Imran Khan could be using Musharraf as. In fact, on the other hand, no alliance with Musharraf is likely, and therefore it could split the votes for Imran Khan. That could go, of course, against him. And the last there, and not the least, of course, is Tahir-ul Qadri himself. What could go in favor of Qadri if Musharraf is back is that he could gain from the fresh uncertainty with the return of Pervez Musharraf. Against the point that we are bringing to you is that there is an opportunity for the Pakistan government now to deflect blame onto Musharraf. All right.
All right, Siddiqui, they're breaking down, well, the possible impact on the politics of Pakistan that General Musharraf's return may well have. But let's get some more perspective. KC Singh, former diplomat, joining us as well on the broadcast. Mr. Singh, first up, my first question to you has to be what you make of this return, the timing as well. Having spoken to voices in Pakistan, everybody said that they advised Musharraf not to return. Of course, there's, forget the threat of arrest, there's an imminent threat to his life as well. And besides keeping in mind, his position, former position in the army, his links with the intelligence networks, there is a real and clear danger to him. There is no likely political impact he's going to have. Why do you think he's returned, sir?
Well, firstly, he's no Napoleon returning for Elba or General Eisenhower or Charles de Gaulle. He is Musharraf, and he had left under a certain cloud. He had been rejected not by the military alone. He'd been rejected by the elite of Pakistan. It's the lawyers' agitation which had driven him from his position, and the army refused to back him. So it'd be difficult to imagine that the army will now espouse him when they were not willing to back him at that stage, and he had to resign and leave. Now, out of the 4 years that he has been in exile, he's been threatening to come back for almost 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
He created his party, the Third Muslim League, the All Pakistan Muslim League. But every time he came to Dubai and he was threatening to come, he realized that there wasn't much support for that party. And Zardari had played his cards very deftly. He couldn't create a division between Nawaz Sharif and Zardari, and nor even the PMLQ, which he created, which Musharraf himself created by breaking away a faction from the Nawaz Sharif Muslim League. Even they were not willing to back Musharraf. So it's very difficult to see. I was in Dubai the other day, just 3 days back, in fact, for a track too with some Pakistani retired generals and diplomats. They were not very excited about it. And there was no buzz in Dubai that there was any such rallying of forces and he was sailing back so the expat community, I don't think, is all that excited about him. He, from his point of view, didn't want to get marginalized. He has ambitions. He wanted to come back and try it out. He can't remain exiled forever.
Yes.
So he's thrown his hat in the ring. Let's see what emerges.
Perhaps not, for immediate results, also to stay alive in public consciousness in Pakistan as well. But certainly, as far as an Indian context is concerned, his return to Pakistan certainly is being seen with a lot of apprehension in various quarters in India as well. But can the general who in many ways orchestrated Kargil change the ground situation as far as both countries are concerned as well? Maha still with us trying to explain the situation.
Well, remember, he's already made certain statements that India will have to take note of. In fact, Musharraf is likely to push for a deal on Siachen and Sir Creek. That's as far as the India-Pakistan relations are concerned. In fact, Musharraf is better known an entity to India than many other players that we have seen in the recent past, especially people like Tahir-ul Qadri. So he is perhaps somebody or an enemy who is known to India. Musharraf's entry also challenges the Pakistan hardliners from forming the next government, which is of course definitely important to India. But there are certain threats as well. Let's look at that now. Politician Musharraf is going to be banking on anti-India stand. Remember, he's already made one statement saying that India is responsible for bleeding Pakistan. Musharraf's track record in supporting anti-India terror is also something that India should be concerned about, and the fresh battle with the Pakistan judiciary could mean fresh instability that puts the diplomacy between the two countries on the back burner. So those are the implications for Indo-Pak relations with the return of Musharraf.
Well, certainly from an Indian perspective as well, there are various issues that one must consider. Ambassador Singh, this is a man who, having spoken exclusively to Headlines today, just before he left for Pakistan, said that India was bleeding Pakistan, conducting terror activities in Balochistan, funding terror activities in Afghanistan as well. How does India really view the general's return to Pakistan, sir?
I don't think anybody is overly concerned. We have dealt with General Musharraf. We know that he's a bundle of contradictions. He's the one who was behind Kargil, and also a new book has indicated. He had even crossed over, etc. So Musharraf, the commando, Musharraf, the man who leads the Pakistani from the front, is also Musharraf, the peacemaker. And that is what you have. It's a bundle of contradictions. And to that extent, probably it's a contradiction at the heart of the Pakistani army, which is a friendly enemy or an enemy friend. And that's why you'll always find they will scale back support to terror, but they'll never finish it. And his answer, incidentally, on India bleeding Pakistan was in response to a question about why, after he left, the Pakistani army seems to have ratcheted up support to terrorism.
Yes.
Then in answer to that, he said that. Therefore, he is effectively voicing what he thinks is a broad opinion in the Pakistani army. He needs their support, he needs their goodwill. So he will fall back on that rhetoric, but he is much worried to ever figure in power again. He'll be back again to peacemaking.
But you think, Ambassador Singh, that at the end of the day, this is a big challenge for the army as well of Pakistan, because they certainly don't want to be in a position where they seem to have failed, if something, untoward were to happen, because there's an imminent threat, certainly for Pervez Musharraf. For them as well, it's a heightened sense of risk. Yes, this is a man they didn't want coming back. It's a headache, if you will, that they didn't want on their hands. But now that they have it, it is very seriously for them as well a charge which they have to take and ensure that he's safe.
And look at the irony of it, because it was a similar headache that President Musharraf had when Benazir came back.
Yes.
It's exactly a similar headache. But the additional problem for the Pakistani army is they want to settle with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. But General Musharraf's presence there is irritating the TTP and therefore making the army choose between the two. They'll have to save their former chief. But the last thing they wanted was an irritant at a point when, with the US beginning or set to withdraw from Afghanistan, they want to settle with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan.
So what kind of an impact can he have on the politics of Pakistan, on the future of Pakistan, a country he says he's risked his life to come to, and of course his effort and his endeavor will be to save it, in his own words. Ambassador Singh, Siddiqui, thanks very much for joining us on this special broadcast.